There's our race leader now, Anthony Gunter. Very closely followed by Jeffrey Leisky. Jeff Leisky, who's only about 50 yards behind the race leader in Anthony Gunter, I beg your pardon. Stephen Gall's in third place. Trevor Williams up there in fourth position, but they're in the closing stage of this event now. And really great action as we come back into a little bit more sound. But Anthony Gunter, the man from Wollongong, he's leading this event. And ladies and gentlemen, Jeffrey Leisky has really and truly made himself really one of the greats here today with some brilliant riding, and he is up in second place. Stephen Gall's in third position. Brilliant riders getting towards the closing stages. We've got Anthony Gunter now coming into the main straight area, plunging down out of the quarry. There he is, the race leader. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. Anthony Gunter first, Jeffrey Leisky, brilliant position in second place. Then back to our third place man, number A for Arthur, Stephen Gall. Back to number H for Henry in Trevor Williams. The A-grade riders on the line now. Number 46 there is Keith Gill. Number 86 alongside of him is Glenn Biffin. Number 30, Peter Benson, riding for Mako West. Number 44, Tony Renner. Number H is Trevor Williams from Kawasaki. Number 51, Peter Cooper, Which Motorcycles. Then we find number E. E, Anthony Gunter. Off and racing now. And Neville Cutts that time completely dictated the start. He was the one that got the starter to press the button, and so consequently he got himself a flyer, but that was to no avail. The race is now being led by Trevor Williams. Then back there to Stephen Gall. There's Greg Tayama amongst them. There he's up in third place with a bit of a slingshot that time. Anthony Gunter, who was a reasonably slow starter, has to be content with being back there in fifth position, and then a long gap back there to the rest of the riders. They all go over the top of that big jump at the southern part of the circuit as they drop out of sight now, and we'll pick them up as they come through the next time around. But by gee, there's no doubt about the start that time. As I said, Neville Cutts had a real flyer at the trap that time. As they move through the back section, heading up towards the big mobile jump, they take that sweeping left-hander, which brings them down to that big jump. There is Trevor Williams, the national champions, out in front. He's out in front. Stephen Gall's in second place. Then we find Robert Woodward amongst them, but I tell you what, the wet conditions have certainly put the cat amongst the pigeons and is making things a little bit difficult for these riders at this particular stage, and makes life a little bit uncomfortable, and they'd have to be very careful that they don't do anything wrong. Trevor Williams there with 20 points. Stephen Gall has 13 points. Then back there to young Robert Woodward, number 6. Back to Anthony Gunter with 30 points. Greg Tayama. Then Peter Benson, Neville Cutts, Jeffrey Leisky with 20 points. 51, Peter Cooper. Then young Shane Thompson. But the little bit of rain really hasn't interfered with the performance of a lot of the riders. A-grade riders they are, and they can handle these conditions. They make no mistake about them, because they are really and truly trying very, very hard as you come into the main straight once again. Trevor Williams out in front. Stephen Gall trying desperately hard to peg him back. He gets up the main straight here, going towards the Lizard's Leap. They take this and negotiate it very successfully. Stephen Gall back there on the Ken George machine. Then Anthony Gunter up in third place. Then back to Robert Woodward, who throws a pair of goggles. Peter Benson, Neville Cutts, then Jeffrey Leisky on the front wheel that time with Greg Tayama finishing over there in about 6th position. But I tell you what, Tom, the stage is set for a great race here.
Certainly is, Con, and by jingo's, great performance going on from some of our West Australian riders there. They're not to be outgunned with Robbie Woodward, Peter Benson, then we've got Neville Cutts, further back to Jeff Leisky. And the next rider through, I'm not able to pick him up. It could be Greg Tayama. but great performance here, and what a start by Trevor Williams rather, on the green meat. He certainly got into that corner first, even though they looked as though from this vantage point there were a whole lot of riders heading in that direction and could have beaten him, but out he came, and certainly had that green meanie pointed in the right direction, and he's kept in that position at this point in time, just ahead of the reigning points leader in the Mr. Motocross Series, namely Stephen Gall, who has just about swept everything before him on the national scene. But the rider out front, of course, is a very competent rider, and Trevor Williams, and is the reigning 500cc national champion, and is on the big 490 Works Kawasaki, disc brakes, and of course the Unilever track system, and shows superb handling and control, and certainly worthy of your thoughts if you're thinking in terms of getting into the motocross field. Trevor Williams, and he's increased his lead as they go up the top section of the track. Stephen Gall, and of course snapping right at his heels now is none other than the flyer from Wollongong, Anthony Gunter. He's looking for the opportunity to get through because he's riding with sheer desperation. He's got 30 big points at this point in time. Trevor Williams, of course, is riding desperately to build up his point gathering system, and Gunter comes through with sheer desperation and takes Stephen Gall as he goes over Lizard's Leap. Then we've got Neville Cutts up into 4th position ahead of Robbie Woodward, and then Jeff Leisky, followed then by Peter Benson on the George Cowie make. Over to you, Con.
Thanks so much indeed, Tom. Yes, great action here as Anthony Gunter now up in 2nd place, and he's really rubbing salt into Stephen Gall's wounds today, because the Kawasaki's have reigned supreme here at the Southern Cross King of the Cross for 1981. Trevor Williams, the national 500 champion, out in front. 2nd place still at the moment, is going very well. There's Anthony Gunter. Stephen Gall's in 3rd place. Johnny McCarthy going past our broadcast position. You can always tell him he's got the long hair that comes out the bottom of his crash helmet, and but nothing can be taken from this man who's out in front at the moment, and it's going to take a very strong challenge from Anthony Gunter to see if he can peg him back. There's been 2 laps completed with 6 to go as Trevor Williams out in front, and if he doesn't tire, he will be a hard man to beat as they come now through King's Corner over the Poms Hump, and you can see him riding very well indeed there in 2nd place. Anthony Gunter back to Stephen Gall, then Neville Cutts, our own West Australian star. Then we find Robert Woodward, a long gap back there to number 5, Jeffrey Lease, then back to Peter Benson. Certainly not number 51 there, Peter Cooper's decided that the going's a little bit too tough. Young Greg Tyoma on T for Tyoma. Then back to number 4, Thompson. Graham Smythe certainly not having one of his better days as far as motocross is concerned, although he's very well amongst the race leaders earlier in the event, as we see Trevor Williams now completed 3 laps with 5 to go. 5 laps to go. Gunter in 2nd place. Back there to Stephen Gall in 3rd place. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the riders are competing today for $9,500 prize money and $750 worth of trophies. Well, that brings you well over the $10,000 mark here for this big motocross extravaganza here today, the King of the Cross for 1981. The race is being led at the moment by Trevor Williams. In 2nd place is Anthony Gunter. Back in 3rd place, Stephen Gall, and it's over now to Tommy Morrison.
Thanks, Con. Well, Trevor Williams has really got the bit between the teeth as far as the Kawasaki is concerned, and he's maintaining that lead, although not very far behind him now. Good perhaps 30 metres is Anthony Gunter, who is perhaps closing a little bit on him, and of course a very aggressive and determined rider is Anthony Gunter. Very strong lad indeed, and we may see a bit of a challenge coming up. But Trevor Williams going down Stranger's Straight now, and I'd say about 25 metres ahead of Anthony Gunter, and then about 30 metres behind him again is Stephen Gall on machine number A. Then further back to the first of the West Australians, namely Neville Cutts on machine number O. Then we've got Robbie Woodward. Further back then to Jeff Leask on machine number 5, and about 5 metres behind him would be Peter Benson on machine number 30. Then I think the heading the next list through is Big Brad Thompson, and Glenn Biffin, and then further back I think would be Graham Smythe there on machine number 2. But meanwhile, on the top part of the circuit, coming down the Poms Leap, is the reigning national 500 champion, Trevor Williams. And he's looking particularly good as he comes up towards the Lizard Leap. Trevor Williams on machine number H. And that's 4 laps down, halfway point. Gunter just behind him, a few short metres. In fact, he's closing the gap now. And then we've got Stephen Gall through, Nev Cutts. And then we're looking, of course, for Robbie Woodward and Jeff Lees. And a bit of a battle going on between these riders. And they're trying desperately to get up there and to earn some points, because I believe there is added incentive in a 6 AM trophy for the best West Australian performer. So it'll be interesting to see who it is that comes out on top with that particular trophy, which has been generously donated by Inland City Radio, namely 6 AM Northern. Well, up on the top side, it's difficult to see if Gunter has got through it. I think it still might be in the hands of Trevor Williams, but only a very, very slender lead indeed. And the two team riders are just behind each other. But Trevor Williams it is, still out front on machine number H, ahead of Anthony Gunter, fellow team Kawasaki rider on machine number E. Trevor Williams 3 or 4 bike lengths ahead of Anthony Gunter on machine number E, and then further back, not putting in the best of performances, but of course doing his utmost best as he always does, Stephen Gall on machine number A. On a production bike here today, his Works Yamaha, I believe, is still in the eastern states, undoubtedly being prepared for the next round of the Mr. Motocross Series, which will be conducted in South Australia next weekend. So a very, very interesting competition coming up for these 3 riders who are present out front. Trevor Williams still hanging on that slender lead there on machine number H as they go past for the 5th time at Gunter. Looks as though he's making in for the kill. And Con, I'll leave you as Gunter takes over the rollers lead.
Thanks so much indeed, Tom. Would the Narrogin representative please come to the base of the PA? The Narrogin representative, there are a couple of people here that want to nominate for your event in a fortnight's time. So here we find now the race is unfolding once again, and the story is being well and truly written by the man who's dominated this event today, the Wollongong rider in Anthony Gunter. Back there in 2nd place, the Victorian rider in young fellow really doing a great job, and Trevor Williams, who rides for Kawasaki Australia. And then our 3rd place man last time through was Stephen Gall. And what a great battle we are having here with Jeffrey Leisky and young Robert Woodward. Max Stepanisev going through an 82. But there you find the 2 green meanies out the back section. Not a great deal of difference in as far as their race order is concerned, but the man who's out in front has absolutely dominated this event. Spread-eagled the field right from the start here, has won everything he's gone into, and now with an ace of taking off the 3rd leg of the King of the Cross for 1981. Over the Poms hump he goes. So there he is now, Greg Tioma. Oops, that bike sounds like it doesn't want to go too well for him. Then the motor department, Nev Cutts there on 0, but noted about the men who have dominated this event all day. Moving down through the back quarry section, which will bring them into the main straight. Anthony Gunter still leading this event and leading it very well indeed. As I said, Trevor Williams on H in second place. Anthony got the fastest starter in the world. He works from a long way behind, David, which is an unusual tactic for a rider of his ability.
It certainly is, Tom, but it means that he doesn't have to put his heart and soul on the line as a lot of other riders do. When they get a bad start, it seems to affect their confidence. He doesn't need that. But one thing I noticed out there, they even got pit boards, and Trevor Williams was just told that he's got plenty of room, and he even eased off as he came across that jump. And I think these two riders will ease off to the line now. But Kawasaki must be very happy with the way things are going today.
Yes, I should imagine sales will start to rise, which just seems to be the trend when you have a winning bike, a winning combination. And there's no doubt about the green meanies. They have dominated this, and you can look at the
Shades of Colin Bond and Alan Moffat.
That's right. So here we have Kawasaki running 1 and 2. No doubt about this man who has led this event. He's coming up to lap some of the other A-grade riders, and I tell you what, it's an incredible thing when you think that he can come up and lap some of these A-grade riders who in their own right are absolute stars of motocross. So here we have Anthony Gunter on machine number E. In second place, machine number H. Trevor Williams from Victoria. Got a long gap back to machine number A for Arthur, and that is Super Stephen Gould. Louis Fanchi waiting in the main straight now with the yellow, with the blue flag, which indicates 1 lap to go. Rick Toyama, again, that machine seems to want to seize on him. It doesn't really have the grunt that he needs from the machine. So we're waiting for our race leader now to come down the main straight, who hasn't put a foot wrong all day, has ridden so brilliantly and so professionally. You really cannot find words to describe the brilliance of Anthony Gunter here today. A real professional at work as he goes across the line there. Trevor Williams there on machine number H. The Greg Toyama's run out of noise, as I said. You could see that bike really wasn't going the way he wanted it to go. Anthony Stephen Gall up in third place. Neville Cutts, then back to Robert Woodward. Then there's a long, long gap back there to young Jeffrey Leisky, who's not going as well as he did earlier in the event. But to take you through the closing stages, Tommy Morrison.
Thank you very much, Con. To Peter Benson just going through and relieving himself of a little bit of a problem visual-wise, and throws his glasses onto the side of the track there. But meanwhile, of course, right at the top part of the circuit and coming down through the jump now is the race leader, Anthony Gunter, just ahead of Trevor Williams. In fact, Trevor Williams is catching up. I think he'll be looking for the opportunity, so it should be a very, very tight finish if Trevor Williams can keep that pressure on as they go down into Strangers Straight and into Smythe's Bend. And the track, of course, is very, very slippery indeed, and riders will be choosing their lines very, very carefully. But Anthony Gunter going up now over the Pom's Leap, and I don't think Trevor Williams is able to bridge the gap within the remainder time that he's got, and may be content to just sit in there. But of course, every opportunity is a challenge, and there they go up towards the top section of the track. And Anthony Gunter, the Wollongong Flyer, is right up the top part of the track, coming down now into Pom's Leap. And he's got himself pointed in the direction of that checkered flag, which is now in the hands of Lou Fanchi. So here we come. Trevor Williams is trying to come up and bridge the gap, but Anthony Gunter goes through, and Trevor Williams content to hang back there into second spot, but a great performance from that rider. And of course, nothing to be taken away from Stephen Gall there, who's working his heart out on that production bike, and he's up against two fierce competitors with the very best of machinery that Kawasaki could produce in the machines that Anthony Gunter and Trevor Williams are riding here today at the Southern Cross circuit.
There we have 0, Neville Cutts, Team Honda, sponsored by Mules of Manjimup. Number E, Anthony Gunter. Anthony Gunter has a clean sweep, 45 points. Trevor Williams in second place with 32 points. Neville Cutts has 24 points. Jeffrey Leisky, 25 points. Stephen Gould, 23. and Robert Woodward has 17 points. And remember, Radio 6 AM are putting up a trophy for the highest point score as far as a West Australian rider is concerned. Riders now on the line. Number 86 there, getting ready for a start, is Glenn Biffin. Number 82, Max Stepanasev. Alongside of him, Anthony Gunter. Number 44, Tony Renner. Number 30, Peter Benson. Number 86, Glenn Biffin. 0, Neville Cutts. 440, Michael Figlamini, who's the workshop foreman for Ray Geneve, the superstar of Speedway. Number 4, Brad Thompson. Number 6, Robert Woodward. Number 8, Trevor Williams, the national champion. Number 226, Philip Hammer. 2 minutes to go. Stephen Gall, 0. Oh, and the riders again dictate the start. As Anthony Gunter that time, just to prove us a little bit wrong, he decided he'd win the start. And don't tell me the Kawasaki boys are not out there meaning big business here today. As you can see, Neville Cutts trying desperately hard. Remember, there is only 1 point separates Neville Cutts from Jeffrey Leisky, and they're going for the Radio 6 AM award for the first West Australian home as Trevor Williams leads. Stephen Gall in second place, up in third place and going very well indeed as Anthony Gunter. Then you find Neville Cutts amongst them too, and as they drop down out of sight into the southern part of the circuit, up towards those beautiful crops that are growing, and I'll tell you what, there'll be a few dollars around here and at the next summertime. Bob Cousins will be able to extend his pub by twice the size, so that when next year we all come up, we can probably get a beer and a little bit of comfort, and Kojak won't punch me in the nose then. Right, Colin? But here we go. They come down through the mobile jump, and you see Trevor Williams out in front, Stephen Gall in second place, only about 2 or 3 bikes length behind in second place. But look at the acceleration of the Kawasaki. He takes into the left-hander here at Smythe's Bend, then straightens the bike up and heads it straight for King's Corner. Throws the bike in there and gets a beautiful ride out of that turn. Over the Palms Hump, Anthony Gunter in second place, then back to Neville Cutts, then further back to number 5, Jeffrey Leisky. Then we find Peter Benson, Robert Woodward, 82, Max Stepanasev, number 86 going through there quite well and doing a great job there. That's young Glenn Biffin. Number 44 amongst them there as well, and he's trying desperately hard. That's Tony Renner, who's on the 250cc powered machine. But there's no doubt about the men that are out in front of this event and dominating it oh so well as they drop down right out of the quarry, as Trevor Williams is the second place man at the moment, first place man in this event I should say, but second place on the points. He has 32. Anthony Gunter has 45, and Stephen Gall has 23. Find Neville Cutts, Jeffrey Leisky fighting very hard to try and peg him back. Peter Benson, but I tell you what, Tom, Stephen Gall's going to make him earn this race if they think they can take it easy the way Stephen Gall's riding now.
I think he's got that in mind, Con, because he's only just a few short metres behind Trevor Williams as they go down to the southern slopes, and he's riding real desperate. And by jingo's coming up also is Anthony Gunter on machine number E. So it'll sheer desperation between these 3 rivals because they are very, very closely separated as far as Mr. Motocross points are concerned, and of course very close rivals wherever they contest together. But Trevor Williams, what a starter he is, and here he is. Stephen Gall has come out as the new race leader as they come down mobile jump. Stephen Gall is out front, then we've got Trevor Williams, and very close behind him then is Anthony Gunter on machine number E. Stephen Gall is coming down into Smythe's Bend. Trevor Williams up on the high, wide and handsome line. And Stephen Gall, of course, realised a lot of pressure behind him, but he wants to build up for himself some valuable points to be part of that big prize money that's being offered here today by the Southern Cross Motorcycle Club for their 7th annual King of the Cross event. First time we've seen Trevor Williams, and what a performance he's put up on this particular circuit. Both, of course, other riders, Gall and Gunter, both know the circuit extremely well, although it has been changed considerably, but the basic part of the circuit is there, and these riders are giving their utmost as they're trying to pressure one another into all sorts of problems and skills, etc., etc. So, and Stephen Gall has gone over the handlebars. A tremendous leap wide over, and it means, of course, that now Trevor Williams has gone, and Stephen Gall, Anthony Gunter, rather, has come up, and we're not quite sure if just Stephen Gall, but trying desperately hard there, as you can appreciate, and a clean sweep right over the handlebars. Meanwhile, of course, Trevor Williams out front, ahead of Anthony Gunter, and of course maybe a little bit of unsettling as far as these riders are concerned, but of course that's motocross, that's the calculated risk that you take when you enter into a daring sport like this, and of course it'll be a very, very dejected Stephen Gall, who is undoubtedly feeling very, very sore and very, very sorry for himself. Over to you, Con.
Yes, he certainly would be, Tom. Very unfortunate, but it hasn't been his day, and he went very, very hard indeed. But this is the 24th event, the fourth and final leg of the 1981 King of the Cross, and the men out in front, they haven't made any mistakes at all. Right from the start of this event, as it started this morning, the story was very, very clearly in everyone's mind, particularly from the first event here today, that Anthony Gunter was going to be the man to watch, and this young man who's led this event, Trevor Williams, as Tom said, the first time we've seen him at the King of the Cross, but by gee, what a star he is. Which will bring them through the closing stage of this event. The 1981 King of the Cross, remember, $9,500 in prize money. There has also been $750 worth of trophies, as Trevor Williams now in the King's Corner for the second last time. Over the Poms hump he goes. Anthony Gunter there in second place on E, then back to 0, Nev Cutts. Back to number 5, riding for the Clemnon All-Star Honda team. That's Jeffrey Leisky. So the riders well and truly knowing what it's all about, and we could have a little bit of the signs of what happened when Ford dominated Bathurst a couple of years ago, when you had the both teams' drivers going across the line in the years of Moffat and Bond domination. And here you have a similar sort of picture about ready to unfold, because you can see what's happening. The blue flag is out, 1 lap to go. Trevor Williams out in front. Then Anthony Gunter. Although Trevor Williams seemed to move a bit further ahead that time, Nev Cutts is starting to close the gap. The pace a little bit slower by the second place man, although Trevor Williams is still keeping it on. Number 5 there, back in 4th position still, Jeffrey Leisky. Then a long gap back to Peter Benson on machine number 30. Moving to the back section for the last time, you can see the riders well and truly looking forward to that checkered flag when it comes through, because they have had to work oh so hard here today in this very rough and tough event for the King of the Cross for 1981. Robert Woodward passed out broadcast position as they dropped down through the mobile jump for the last time. Trevor Williams, who has led this event from the first lap, hasn't been headed, and now with about 3/4 of a lap left to go, the big question is, will Anthony Gunter get up and make a clean sweep? It'll be interesting to note, because Anthony Gunter really hasn't done anything desperate in this event, and he doesn't have to either, because he realises that the event is his for this year. All he has to do is to make sure that he finishes, and that's exactly what he's going to do here today. Nev Cutts is starting to close the gap. The Team Honda rider riding for Muirs of Manjimup. Long gap back there once again to number 5, Jeffrey Leisky, but tell you what, there's still a fair amount of racing up to the northern part of the circuit, and the Team Kawasaki machines now realising the only about 1/4 of a lap left to go, sweeping in the left-hander. There's Anthony Gunter now right alongside that rider, but Williams has a little bit more speed there as they drop down out of the hills there into the flat section. About 200 metres left to go. Now about